And then just to wrap it up, a little about me. I'm really excited to be working on Theresa's campaign, and I've been in Iowa for a while now. And previously, before being on Theresa's campaign, I was working as an organizer for Pete in Wapello County, which I'm very proud that we won, and proud to be doing this event and flipping the Senate with all of your support. So I'm going to turn it over to our very special guest, Mayor Pete.
All right. Well, first of all, Sam, thanks for the great job that you did for us in my race, and I'm so glad that you and your colleagues are doing the same in such a just absolutely vital race, which is getting Theresa Greenfield elected in Iowa, and I'm so excited about this. We're proud of Wapello County and the number of counties that we won, but I believe Theresa pulled off a win in 98 counties in Iowa, which shows an ability to reach people and succeed in very different communities. And I really think it's the vocabulary and the style that she brings, and that our Midwestern Democrats from states that where you really do have to reach across the aisle and find voters wherever you can. I think that's not only how we're going to win, take back the Senate, expand our House majority, and ultimately win the presidency. I also think it's very important for how we're going to govern. We very much hope and pray and work toward a good result in November, but then the real work will begin. And I want leaders like Theresa Greenfield in the United States Senate, because I know that she's going to bring that kind of approach that's what we need. And you can see in the way she's running her campaign. Not taking corporate PAC money in order to make sure that she's walking the walk, demonstrating that she's paying attention to every kind of community. I love this small towns, bigger paychecks concept, which you might share more about later, but is about making sure that there's economic growth in every area and no parts left behind. And of course, she insists that healthcare is a right and not a privilege, which is so important at this moment where we see how it hangs in the balance of the court. And just how much literally how many lives are on the line in the question of whether or not we're going to build on what we've done with healthcare or tear it down, which is clearly the agenda of Joni Ernst and the McConnell majority that she takes her instructions with. And I think voters can tell when somebody who was signed up to serve them has wandered away from that and gotten absorbed by the politics of the moment. And unfortunately, if you want to even survive in Mitch McConnell's Senate GOP caucus, you have to go along with so many things that have turned it into a bad faith organization. And Iowans know that they're being left behind by this. This is probably why the groups that are allied with Mitch McConnell have committed more than $60 million going into ads in Iowa. So it's going to be one of the most expensive races in the history. But that's also because it's so competitive. And I love seeing that validated in the third-party ratings that are officially calling this now a toss-up race, which is something we wouldn't have thought possible just a few months ago when I was on the ground campaigning in Iowa, to be considered a toss-up. And that's a testament to the great work this campaign is doing, as well, of course, to the times we're living in. I mean, when I was last on Iowa soil, if you had told me any of those days, buckle up because the stakes are going to get a lot higher, I would have looked at you wondering what that could possibly mean, because it felt at the beginning of this year like things were as demanding and high stakes as they could possibly be. Only to see us as a country go into crisis after crisis, emergency after emergency, from the pandemic to the awakening on racial and social injustice in this country, to the economic collapse that threatens all of our well-beings, to really, I think, a level of crisis around our democracy itself, as basic norms around the peaceful transfer of power, for example, are trampled by this president. And all the attention goes to the president, and I understand why. When the president of the United States behaves this way, it's extremely disturbing, and we deserve a better pandemic response, better priorities, certainly a better approach on healthcare, and so much more by way of a better example from the president. But what's really going to make the difference is for us to send a message to this president's protectors in the Senate, those who have wandered away from the needs of those they serve, in order to be part of this agenda that, as far as I'm concerned, is as offensive to traditional conservative values as it is to progressive and liberal values. That's one of the reasons I'm on Fox so much, because I believe that you don't have to be a diehard Democrat to see what's wrong in the Senate today. This is a moment where we have a chance to send what I think, especially with Theresa's victory in Iowa and in a few other places, shockwaves powerful enough to maybe reunite the Republican Party with its own conscience, because I think only the experience of losing power will do that for them. And that's where you need public servants who are rooted in everyday life, who understand what's at stake, who listen. And as a Midwesterner, I'm a little biased, but I really am convinced that that's a big part of what's going to make it possible for us to move ahead in the Senate and in official Washington. So 20 days to go. I don't even think of it as election day coming up. I think of it as voting season now underway. And we know what the stakes are. We also know that down this home stretch, resources like what you're generously offering as part of this event are a huge part of what it takes to compete and to win. So thank you. I know almost by definition I'm preaching to the choir, but I want to just urge you in those efforts, invite you to consider digging deeper if you can, and also complementing your generous donation of treasure with whatever time you can give, because I've also seen in some very creative ways how Theresa's campaign is mobilizing people with new ways to reach out to voters that are also responsible in the context of the pandemic. And we need to raise the profile of this race. We need to reach voters, knock virtually on those doors, do the phone banks, whatever it takes in order to make sure that we earn this victory. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm thankful that you're here. I see a lot of folks from who were so generous and so helpful and encouraging during my campaign. And what I love is no matter what side you were on in the primary season, we're all on one team now. And it's a team that I'm proud to be part of. Some of the most progressive Democrats, some of the most moderate Democrats, as well as independents and Republicans, all coming together to say we need change. That's how we're going to win the White House. That's how we're going to win the Senate. And that's why I am so excited for Theresa Greenfield. So thanks again for being part of this, and thanks for the chance to join you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pete, for helping to host all of this. Thank you for your support. Thank you for stepping up to run and spending a year of your life crisscrossing Iowa. You know, part of the reason we're in this race is because of the strong presidential candidates that we had, including you, Mayor Pete, registering voters, activating Iowans, regardless of party, regardless of where they lived, small towns, big cities, regardless of what they did for a living, regardless of the color of their skin, reaching out to activate Iowans. And they were desperate for it, and they were hungry for it. And they're in this fight with us now. To everybody here, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming out today. I got to tell you, we've got 20 days left until election season is over. I like how you described that, Mayor Pete. And all I can tell you is I wish I had more fingernails because I am biting them. But we have 20 days to move this race from what's become a toss-up to a win. And we absolutely can do it. If you've been following along since the primary, most of the polls show us leading Senator Ernst by 2 points, maybe 3 points. To me, that's good news, but it clearly says it's a toss-up. It's going to be a fight and a tussle. But it also tells me Iowans are not loyal to her. They are not in love with her. And they really are giving all the Democratic candidates up and down this ticket a real look and a real shot to earn their votes. Now, I think Iowans are independent thinkers and they're independent voters. And when you look over the history of Iowans and how they voted, I think it's true. You know, we elected Democratic Senator Tom Harkin and re-elected him for 30 years. And we elected Republican Senator Chuck Grassley and re-elected him, and he is still serving. This state went for President Obama twice and then swung to Donald Trump and then came back to the middle with electing Cindy Axne and Abby Finkenauer to the House of Representatives, where Democrats now hold 3 of our 4 House seats. And so it is a real independent kind of state. And since I got in this race last June, we've been working hard to build that grassroots team in all 99 counties and asking all Iowans to take a look, give us a chance to earn their vote, and of course, to be their next senator. So here we are. I'm fired up, I'm thrilled, and I'm particularly grateful that all of you are here. Now, I do see a whole bunch of faces that I recognize. Thank you. But there's some new people. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes to tell you about me. I grew up rural on a little farm outside of a town of 500. That's where I learned how to make things and fix things. And I've been a tinkerer all my life. I'm really super lucky. At the time, I didn't think so, but now I really think so. My dad always said there's no boy jobs and there's no girl jobs, just jobs that need to get done. And that meant I got to help him with the flying service, my favorite job, but it also meant I got to help shovel the brown smelly stuff, my least favorite job. But I've taken that attitude with me, and it's been helpful for my whole life, and Washington is no different. We have jobs that need to get done, and they need to get done. They aren't Republican jobs and they aren't Democratic jobs. They're jobs we need to get done, whether it's healthcare for all of us or an infrastructure plan that brings broadband to all of us or fixes bridges or locks and dams and everything in between. We got some jobs to get done. But I grew up kind of a poor, scrappy farm kid and was a product of that farm crisis. And so today, when I see the economic damage due to haphazard trade, reckless tariffs, ethanol waivers, bankruptcy rates are now at an 8-year high, net farm income's down 75%. I think that farm families, small businesses, and manufacturers shouldn't have to suffer like my family did in the early 80s. We need different leaders who can make better decisions in Washington to help our Iowa economy. I also got in this race for personal reasons, and that's Social Security. And I know that may not be the sexiest thing on everybody's mind, but to me, it is. I was widowed at the age of 24, and my first husband was a union member, a lineman. And when he died in a workplace accident, I became a single mom. I had a 13-month-old, and I had another one on the way, and I had no way to pay the rent or to put groceries in the refrigerator next month. And it was Social Security and his union benefits that gave us the second chance, kept us out of poverty. Of course, it was, family and friends and union brothers and sisters, hometown, that helped pick me up. I didn't get here today by myself. Senator Joni Ernst talks about privatizing Social Security, about going behind closed doors to gut it. She most recently proposed payroll tax cuts, which would defund Social Security. And even Chuck Grassley said he doesn't support that. And I said, no way. And I stood up, came in off the sidelines, and decided to run because I want to work hard to sustain Social Security for generations to come. I don't care if you're a granny, a young widow, or just someone that relies on those supplemental benefits. You've worked hard, you've earned them, and we need to sustain Social Security. And I'll tell you, clearly, we're taking my grit and my resolve to every county and every township and fighting hard. We're talking to Iowans in person. We're talking to them on Zoom. We're talking to them on teletown halls. And we're going to continue to fight until the polls close on November 3rd. But here's what Iowans are telling me about, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today too. They're talking about healthcare. It is the #1 thing that's on the ballot, and COVID certainly has elevated that conversation. It's costs, it's deductibles, it's premiums, it's drug costs, it's rural healthcare, the viability of our hospitals and clinics, it's mental health care, it's addiction care, and something that has me hot under the collar, it's maternal mortality rates. And so healthcare is on the ballot everywhere I go. In my town halls, again, it is what people are bringing up, that and Social Security, and just real concerns about their small businesses and their jobs related to this COVID pandemic. So we're in this fight. We got 20 days to win it. I can't do it alone. I want you to know just how critical your support is to helping us be up on rural radio, in the rural newspapers, to be out there in yard signs, which are so important across the state, but to be also building a strong get out the vote team. And early voting started October 5th. And so we certainly are intensely focused on making sure we are getting our voters to their polls and making sure that their voices get heard on November 3rd. So thank you for coming. And I don't know if the mayor is still here or not. If he is, I want to invite him to make a few closing comments. I know he had to move on. And if not, Sam, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, I think Pete had to hop off, but we're so glad he was able to Zoom and join us. And now we can just have a great conversation about the race. And we have a lot of folks have questions that were pre-submitted, and folks have their hands raised. We're going to start with Susie Forrestal, and we'll get us going here.
Yes, thank you, Theresa. First of all, I just wanted to send lots of energy and positivity your way. I've been very proud of your campaign and race so far, and I was very happy to place my vote in the secured mail area for you. So I just wanted to, again, reemphasize the importance of common sense gun control to me and my family, and really also look at the Violence Against Women Act. One reason why I was so upset with Senator Joni Ernst is that she decided not to re-up that because of the boyfriend loophole and not willing to take firearms away from convicted stalkers and convicted domestic abusers. So I know right now that this race has been, a lot of times this topic has been quiet recently, but I just want to reemphasize that importance to me as an Iowan and as a gun owner myself. Thank you.
Hi, Susie. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the opportunity to earn your vote. I really do appreciate it. And I'll tell you, certainly healthcare is the #1 topic on people's minds. But Susie, to your point, when it comes to ending gun violence, Iowans are talking about it. And polls overwhelmingly show Iowans are ready for some sensible policies that can keep guns out of the hands of people who can hurt themselves and can hurt others. And they're ready for us to take action. And I'm a responsible gun owner too. I grew up on a farm, where we did a lot of hunting. I often got tasked with making sure the varmints didn't get our baby pigs. And I loved shooting skeet with my dad. As a matter of fact, when I am able to get back to the farm, that's usually one of the first things he wants to do. And I love it. But that's different. We have to take sensible policies. So I'm looking forward to taking that kind of action. And I think that the House of Representatives has passed a number of bipartisan bills that if we're able to win back the majority of the Senate, Susie, we're going to take some of that kind of action. So thanks for coming out today.
Thanks, Theresa.
All right, next up, we will go over to Susie and Bruce.
Hi. I just want to say hi as a native Iowan, born and bred in Iowa City. So very happy to be supporting you. My political Iowa goes back to the Harold Hughes gubernatorial races in the early 60s.
And I'm from Ohio, which also is 75% vowels originally, and had never thought of it that way. We were in Iowa this last winter for Pete. And my question today really is, having just heard what Susie had to say, and also I've been watching the Supreme Court hearings. And my question for you is, how are those playing in Iowa? She's on that committee, and she's been a stalwart conservative on that committee. And I'm just curious to see what this word is in Iowa, because here in Washington, we live in Bethesda, Maryland. We don't really hear much about it.
Well, Susie and Bruce, thank you for zooming in. Thank you for the support. And I'm glad you get back to Iowa once in a while. So I'm just going to say, any state that's got, 75% vowels has got to be awesome. When it comes to the Supreme Court and the confirmation process that's going forward right now, I think that certainly this confirmation responsibility is pretty solemn. I look forward to independently vetting all nominees that would come before me, regardless of who the president is. I think that's really important. For the process that's going on right now, of course, I believe that, look, Iowans are voting, Americans are voting. This process should not be going forward. We should let the next US Senate and president be seated, and then complete this lifetime appointment and confirmation process. Certainly that's not what's happening. When it comes to the conversation on the ground, well, whether I am out in Woodbury County or I've actually been traveling the state, having teletown halls with about 250 Iowans on each event, that they're not talking that much about it. They really are talking about their health care. They recognize it's on the ballot. They recognize that the Supreme Court is going to be hearing the federal lawsuit that could dismantle the Affordable Care Act. They're talking about their small business, they're talking about Social Security. And I think that if you are someone that's motivated to vote because of the Supreme Court, you're probably already in one camp or the other. What we are hearing from some of our independent voters is really that they're interested in the divisiveness coming to an end. They're tired of the bickering and the name calling and nothing getting done. And they are really looking to understand how they can get leaders that will work in Washington like we do in our hometowns, right? Where sometimes we fight like brothers and sisters, don't get me wrong. But if there's a pothole in the middle of the street, we get it fixed. It's not a Republican pothole or a Democratic pothole. And I think that kind of leader is who's going to move the independent voters across the state.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next, Nick Boris had pre-submitted a question, so we can go to Nick.
Hey, Theresa. Nick Boris in Texas. We had a great chance to talk just a couple of weeks ago. As a veteran who served on active duty for 9 years, we often see a lot of enthusiasm for sending other people's children to war. But when those same children come home, we don't see that same enthusiasm for funding healthcare across the VA. What are your thoughts on how to drive that healthcare for the people, to fight for the people who fought for us?
Nick, thank you. It's great to hear from you again. Thank you for joining in and thank you for your support. And I think you're absolutely right. We have to do more, whether it's through our GI bills, whether it's through improvements to the VA system to be taking care of our veterans, folks who have given us their best and all. I'm a mother of a son in the military. I come from a long line of veterans, and I certainly have so much respect and appreciation for their work and their sacrifices. I will tell you, we have to do a few things. One, we have to invest in mental health care across the VA system. I hear it from veterans around the state. No one should be denied care if they show up. If a veteran shows up and is in crisis, they need to be admitted. And right now, oftentimes are turned away, and there are long wait times. And when someone's in crisis, particularly our veterans, they need that care right away. We have to expand and continue to expand telehealth. And this is something I think that the administration did well in COVID. I don't have a long list of what they did well, but expanding telehealth certainly has been helpful during COVID. And that is something that we have to make permanent, and we have to grow to meet all of our communities, but particularly our veterans, as VA resources are limited across this state. And then I really think about jobs. If you are doing electronics in the military, there ought to be an easier transition back to civilian life where you can earn a living wage, if not a great wage. And I've got a wonderful example of that. I just toured Iowa Lakes Community College, which is where I went. They have what's called CERT. It's a sustainability energy related program focused on very advanced electronics. And the gentleman that runs the program is a veteran, and he told me his best students, if they can get them to come in the door, are the veterans that have had training in the military. And if they complete the program, which he said we get them through the program, they're making 6 figures right away. And so we have to make sure that we're doing those investments. One of the things, Nick, I do talk about all the time and we'll be focused on is working to create debt-free community college, trade schools, technical schools, pushing those apprenticeship programs where you earn while you learn, making sure all of our students, whether they're coming back as veterans or they're coming out of high school or they're adults like me that had to go back and get retraining, we can do that in a way that is debt-free and really creates an optimistic and bright future for them. So Nick, I will really look forward to working with you to understand more details about how we can improve the VA system to serve our veterans.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick, for that great question. Now we'll move on to Stephen.
Thank you. Hi, Theresa. How are you? So my question was somewhat asked, but I'm taking an offshoot of it. It's around the Supreme Court hearings, also based out in Washington, D.C., and that's what people. I'm wondering whether you can tie it into your message or how you see people looking at it, because it seems clear that if she becomes justice, she will help undo the Affordable Care Act, and Joni Ernst's going to support that. So I'm wondering if that's a message how you can tie in the hearings with the healthcare issue.
Stephen, it's good to talk to you. Good to see you. Thank you for coming out and supporting. I will tell you, really, every time I get asked or I'm in front of the microphone or upcoming debate, I do tie those together. That what's at stake with this Supreme Court lifetime appointment, it certainly includes a number of issues, whether it's Citizens United, ending political corruption, whether it is Roe v. Wade being settled law, whether it's workers' rights. But right now it is healthcare. It is on the ballot. And making sure people understand that Senator Ernst has voted repeatedly to end it, that she supports this lawsuit that would dismantle the Affordable Care Act. And I speak to it in terms, Stephen, about how it affects people's lives. So yes, pre-existing conditions, but for seniors, it'll open that donut hole wide open again. For folks that rely on rural healthcare, it could cause hospitals to close in this state. We've taken advantage of Medicaid expansion. And when you compare states that did not and those that have, you can see that the rural hospital closure rates is much higher for those states that did not take Medicaid expansion. And I lay that all at the feet of Senator Joni Ernst, who, by the way, has no plan other than to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now we'll move on to Michael.
Hi, good afternoon. Very nice to meet you, Theresa. I've been so impressed from afar with your campaign, and you're even more impressive in this venue. So really a pleasure. I actually also in the Washington D.C. area. I actually co-chair the national healthcare practice for a law firm, Holland and Knight, and I work on a lot of biotechnology companies, and they have agriculture applications, of course, as well as medicine applications. And it's really a field that's so important and relies on an understanding and an acceptance of science. And what's been really disconcerting, I think, over the last however long, but certainly seems like it's come to a head lately, is this seeming disrespect for science and scientists. And frankly, we see it at the highest levels of the current administration. And I'm just curious about your take on that, and if you've thought about ways to kind of, I don't know if you can fix, if that's a problem to be fixed, or at least we can sort of start getting people to think again about how it was science that got us to the moon and has led to so many of the things that make our life possible.
Michael, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support, and thanks for bringing up science, because one of the topics that comes up at most of my events is taking climate action. And of course, that's all about the science.
Yeah.
And, I will tell you, lots of folks, we don't all understand the science, but we do see what's happening in our communities. We see the flooding in Iowa, the hundreds of thousands of acres that can't be planted because of flooding. We see higher temperatures and humidity. We see planting windows narrowing up. People are seeing what climate change looks like in Iowa, and farmers in particular, they know we need to take action, and they know that action needs to be science-based. And so, of course, Senator Joni Ernst dismisses the climate science. It's just another weather pattern for the day, but it's not. And so we talk about it as science, and are getting really great support because of that. One, science just takes the politics out of it. It takes the emotions out of it. We have a problem. And we scienced our way into this problem, frankly, and we can science our way out. Now, one of the things that is high on my priority list in my Fair Shot for Farmers plan, I outline it, is my goal. And one of the things that I would love to have be my legacy is to move the United States to be the first net zero ag industry. And I also look at climate and think about the actions we can take. We must work globally and get back into those global partnerships. But then I think about what we can do right here in Iowa that really helps us do our part. And of course, it's wind, it's solar, but we have, you know, millions of cultivated acres, and there's an enormous opportunity to sequester carbon. And we need to do that by investing in conservation, the kind of conservation techniques that allow us to capture that carbon, but also promotes regenerative farming. And I think our farmers and our landowners, you know, they need to be compensated in a way that makes sure that they're receiving benefit from the benefit we're receiving too by implementing those conservation practices as we move our way to a net zero ag industry. So that's where I'm staying focused, and that's some of the work I'd like to do.
Thank you. And I do, before I know we have to get to another speaker, I do want to say that I really appreciate your comment about your personal experience with Social Security. And that's really, thank you for sharing that. And I'll tell you, I have a similar experience, only in your example, I was the child. I was older than, you know, your child, it sounds like, but my mom passed, and our family, when I was young, relied on Social Security also for a while. So I thank you for sharing that, and I really appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. And those are hard-earned union benefits, not union benefits, but hard-earned benefits. And it's also part of the deal that we've made with one another to take care of one another across this country. It's fundamental to how the values in which our democracy is built. And so I'll be working hard to sustain it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks, Michael.
All right. And we have a lot of great questions. It's so great to see everybody so fired up just 20 days from the election. If we don't get to you today, you can always email and connect with the staff, and we'll be sure to follow up. But for our last question, I'm going to go to my friend Dennis Wilhoit, one of our great volunteers for Pete, and fed me many a warm meal back in the day.
Hi, Theresa. Thanks so much for doing this today. Appreciate it very much. I do many different things, but the one title I wear very proudly professionally is that of a musician. And so I have been a university professor as well as a working gig musician for many, many years. And what I see now on my Facebook with my friends are the loss of jobs and the reality of where the arts are today. They're not in good shape. And so I'm wondering your perspective on, as we pull out, how will we get the arts back on board? And of course, there's there are places like New York where it is so intense, but there are arts in Iowa too, and orchestras, et cetera, et cetera. How to get that gig economy back up and running, and also maybe what you think about the arts in terms of healing this divisiveness that we have in our nation in terms of funding for the arts, which has continued to go down year to year.
Dennis, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming out. You do have some other folks on this call today who are passionate about the arts also, and have a deep appreciation for the value that they bring to our culture and our communities. But to your point, we are being devastated right now by this pandemic, not only the health crisis and the tragic loss of life, but the economic crisis. Unemployment rates are the highest they've been since the Great Depression. I have talked to many, a gaffer who's unemployed right now across the state, folks that live down in Page County and work in the Omaha market, folks that are here in Des Moines, and they're unemployed. And the extra $600 a week through the expanded unemployment benefits don't even come close to covering the wages that they were earning as part of the venues that they worked at. So I think that first and foremost, we have got to have a phase 4 stimulus package. We are in a crisis and we have to make sure that we do 3 things. 1, get a handle on this public health crisis by keeping people healthy and safe. I've called for a statewide mask mandate for Iowa. The White House task force has called for it. And you all are aware of where our infection rates are, very high, our hospitalization rates, the highest it's been. If we're going to get back to football, music, anything, we have got to get our handle on this public health crisis. And it starts by wearing a mask and making sure that we're investing in testing and contact tracing and PPEs. I don't need another call from a nurse because I do get them, that's wearing their mask for 2 shifts. Second, we got to invest in workers. So whether you're working in the arts or you're working in entertainment or hospitality or however you've lost your job, these are hardworking folks that have a lot of dignity and pride in providing for their families, and they've lost their jobs because of this economic crisis related to the pandemic, and we need to take care of them. And so we have to have another round of extended unemployment benefits, direct payments, all of those things, paid sick leave. People shouldn't have to decide if they're going to work sick, particularly in the time of COVID, or whether they stay home and lose a paycheck or lose their job. And then 3, the economy, how we rebuild this economy and work through this crisis. And as you all know, Iowa's a state of small towns and small businesses, and they're hurting. So many businesses that I visit with, whether they're breweries or bowling alleys or coffee shops and so many others, their cash flow's down 60%, 80%. They're not sure if they're going to stay open after the first of the year. So we have to have another round of PPP to help our small businesses. But it's not just them. I've been calling mayors around this state. Again, Republican mayors, Democratic mayors, I don't care. They lead their people all the time. And most of them will tell you that their budgets are in real tough shape. And they're the place where our first responders are, our sanitation workers, the folks that keep our communities running. And I think they need some direct aid too. So we need a phase 4 stimulus package. And we also then need to continue to invest in the arts. I think I talked to someone about it a little bit earlier. And for me, I think it starts right away. Whether we had universal pre-K for everyone, which I'd like to do, that incorporates those arts, but absolutely has to be extended through our high school programs, where oftentimes the arts are compromised. Because again, it's a way of interpreting the world. It's a way of communicating with one another. It's certainly a way to earn a living, but it's also a way to have relaxation and beauty in your lives. And so the arts bring an enormous amount of benefit to us, and I'll certainly be a defender of the arts. Right now, I'm focused on the pandemic and the crisis that we have in front of us, I will tell you.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. And just a reminder, if you didn't get your question answered, please reach out to staff. You can connect with me at samantha@greenfieldforiowa.com, and we'll be happy to get you an answer to anything you have on your mind. But again, thank you all for joining us, and I'll just send it over to Theresa to wrap us up.
Well, all right. Thank you everyone for coming out today. First and foremost, I hope that you are all doing well, you're staying healthy and staying safe, and that you're staying connected with the family and friends in your community as we are all in this horrible crisis together. So that's my first wish for you. Second, we got 20 days to move this thing from a toss-up to a win. I am getting up every day, working my fingers to bone to make that happen. I cannot do it alone. So I want you to know I am just deeply grateful that you have dug in deep, that you're supporting the campaign. If there's anything else you can do, whether it's additional donations, whether you can share some time to help us get across the finish line, I absolutely invite you to do that. I hope that we all wake up on November 4th and we're delighted with the outcome, and that we know that we did everything we could to win races, by the way, up and down the ticket. We need to take back the State House here in Iowa. There are some state Senate seats that are absolutely up for grabs. This United States Senate seat, we need to reelect our House of Representative leaders. And of course, we need to help Vice President Biden get across the finish line. And so I'm grateful. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye, everyone.